This is the features video for the 0.11 release. All right, to start off with, we demoted the combat view and replaced it with the tab view. The tab view basically does the same stuff, but also provides the other tabs. If you really want the combat view, you can go back to the sheet menu and select it from there. We haven't gotten rid of it. We've enhanced the navigation buttons down here. You can now collapse them with this arrow. And if you select on one of these buttons, it'll highlight where it's taking you to, so you kind of know what it's talking about. And I knew my stupid item hover picture wasn't very good. I'm not very good with CSS. One of our users, though, is, and they fixed it for us. So if you have an item that has an icon associated with it, it will now correctly hover over that item in the right spot, and it'll look really nice. And that way, if you're using items that have cool icons, then at least now the users can see them easily. And speaking of items, one of our users gave us their code for importing the GCS equipment files. So under Compendium, they now have a button, Import Equipment Library. And from here, you select a GCS EQP file. So I'll select the basic set and import. It does take a little bit of time. And it's done. And now we have a compendium of basic set items. And you can actually drag these onto characters as is. So I'll take these brass knuckles and give them to Lady Serial. And if you look at the skill level, it automatically puts in the correct on-the-fly formula. If you watched any of the preview videos, you know that we now have animations. So Bog's going to make a axe attack on this goblin. He's going to make a ranged attack, and actually he'll make another one, and then we'll try a third one, and it says, nope, you can't do it. He'll target his friend and do a first aid, and let's see if this succeeds. It does succeed, so they get healed, and there's actually a first aid message that's whispered to them. So that's actually showing off three features. One of the features is that any item that has a skill check, so melee, ranged, skills, or spells, now have these four new attributes: check, during, pass, and fail, and these are on-the-fly formulas. The check executes before the action, and if it fails, it won't allow the action. And then during just executes during the action. It's a great place to put an animation. And pass or fail are things to do if it passes or fails. So the great axe, you can see, just does an animation. The balanced throwing axe, it actually checks the quantity and subtracts one from the quantity. And if the quantity is greater than or equal to 0, then it allows it to happen. And that's why it wouldn't allow me to throw the third axe, because I've run out of balanced throwing axe. Now, this is a feature from the previous release. If you want to keep track of your inventory items here in Foundry, double-click on the item and check this box. Check this to save the current count. And what this means is when I do a re-import, it won't get overwritten there. I just re-imported, and it doesn't get reset back to 2. And the last feature was on the first aid. When it passed, we did this combined on-the-fly formula, which was a blue animation and then a whisper command. And this is the third new feature. Whisper at says, send the message to the owner of the person, of the character you have targeted. You can just target somebody, and if they have an owner, then you say /whisper at hi, and it sends to the correct owner. And the last feature we previewed was the combat maneuvers. If the GM starts up a combat, a new status icon will appear for those characters, and that status icon is tied to the conditions setting in the character sheet. There are system settings to control the level of who sees what, but in general, if you pick everybody and the general setting, we're following basically the posting that Crom made, where everybody really should see everybody else's attack mode except for feint, and we determined that maybe not the subspecies of all-out attacks or all-out defenses. So you can see here in the GM view, the fire elemental is doing an all-out attack double, and the goblin is doing a feint. But this is Harry's view, and he controls Bog, and Bog just sees that the goblin is doing an attack, and the fire elemental is doing an all-out attack. The next feature deals with Foundry links. So I'm going to drag a few links into this journal entry. That's something you can do already. But the new feature is you can drag and drop this stuff in the text editors on your character and you'll get references. So if I want to drag a reference to Bog, and that's the on-the-fly format for an actor reference. It's the exact same thing as the Foundry reference, except it's enclosed in square brackets and it doesn't have the @ symbol at the beginning. But there you can see it. There's now a Bog reference. And if I click it, brings up Bog. And you can do this anywhere where you can edit. So on this quarterstaff, for some reason, I want to put a reference to the glowing ring. And now you can see the glowing ring as a reference on the quarterstaff. And if I click it, it opens up the glowing ring. And you can send these references to the chat log like any on-the-fly formula. Now, if you have an item editor open, you can just drag and drop the picture, and that will actually add the item. So now here's the glowing ring, which had the Ring of the Mind reference in its note. And oh yeah, we reinstated the rolltable chat command. Somehow that got deleted. And if you didn't know this, in your rolltable formula, you can say that it's 3d6 plus @gmod_c. And what that'll do is it'll add the global modifier and clear it, which means it only gets used once. So if I want to add a +5 to my global modifier, and then I'm on a rolltable, and you just have to give enough of the table name case insensitive so that it finds your table amongst all the tables that you have. I only have the 3. And rolls it. You can see the +5 in the formula at the top. I fixed up the strength-based ranged modifiers for ranged weapons and added a system setting. So they should now all correctly calculate. But if you don't want them to calculate, you can turn off this system setting, and then the next time that you re-import the character, it'll switch back to the X style. So you can see here it's ×15 and ×20. So that's the 0.11.0 release. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and I'll try to update the document. You know, it is more fun to code than it is to type documents, but I understand completely, especially with something as complex as the animation command. And as always, thank you for watching.